Welcome to Alberta Conservation Association's Harvest Your Own podcast, the resource for everything hunting, navigating through the field, the butcher shop, and the kitchen. Life is all about great food. Let's get started.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Brad Fenson, an avid outdoor enthusiast who has worked as a freelance journalist, photographer, and public speaker for over 3 decades. I have hunted, fished, and foraged all my life and hope to share my passion for the outdoors. Along the way, I want to encourage everyone to harvest wild proteins and enjoy the satisfaction of providing the next meal for your family. Our goal is to educate, entertain, and inspire individuals to get outdoors and create a connection between food, health, and your future meals. Welcome to Harvest Your Own. Today I have an old friend of mine on here that I'd say he has a passion for fly fishing and some wing shooting. Big game, but he's definitely a turkey aficionado. Jim Clarke, from these days down at Raymond, Alberta. How you doing, Jim?
I'm good. Yourself, Brad?
I'm doing well. Yes, we're here. We've talked turkey on this podcast a few times. We've had Doug Manzer on and talked about some of the things that have been ongoing in terms of research and new stocking programs and what the future might look like. But we're sort of taking a step back and talking to Jim, yourself, because you were quite instrumental in getting a turkey management plan developed for Alberta, creating more interest in the bird all the time. I think every time you get a chance to do that, you're definitely first in line. But we're just going to talk turkey and see where we've been, what we've done, what we're doing, and what the future might hold.
Sure, sounds good.
Yeah. So like I said, I'd describe you as an avid fly tyer and an angler first, hunter, and slightly obsessed with wild turkeys. Is that about accurate?
Yeah, I've always said fishing season only stops for hunting season. So other than ice fishing, I don't do too much of that nowadays. But yeah, my number one love right now is turkey hunting.
Yes.
Anytime I can, I go turkey hunting.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. You've been quite active in the outdoors and with sportsmen's organizations over the years. Currently, the Alberta Wildlife Federation, which used to be Alberta Fish and Game Association. And what clubs are you currently a member of?
I'm currently a lifetime member of the Lethbridge Fish and Game Association. And I'm a current member and executive member in the Sarcee Fish and Game Association in Calgary.
Right. And now you've been involved with the provincial executive and the club executives for years. What's the different roles you've played?
Yeah, different roles I played in there is I have served on obviously a lot of little subcommittees. I used to represent down in the south on the Old Man River mitigation and bull trout task force and walleye task force and all sorts of things, and then progressed over to the fishing chair for a few years. Then I was a hunting chair for a few years. And currently I sit on the Alberta Habitat Fund Board of Directors.
Very interesting. And it sort of runs in the family. Your wife, Deb, is very involved with the organization as well and has had many positions and still, I'm sure, is actively involved.
Oh, yeah, for sure. She's still in the same clubs as I am. And she's currently the Zone 1 Southern Alberta Director for the Alberta Wildlife Federation.
Yes, yeah. So it's an interesting role, and you've also been involved over the years with the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation. Is that correct?
Yeah, a little bit with the Canadian Wild Turkey Federation, and most recently they've just struck up a task force, if you will, to have people representatives from across Canada. As yet to hold their inaugural meeting, but yeah, I was picked by the Alberta Wildlife Federation to sit on that and represent Alberta in that aspect. Prior to that, I had a lot of involvement with the National Wild Turkey Federation and a local club in Alberta in Okotoks. We were called the East Slope Turkey Trackers. But then laws changed in Canada for raising funds for organizations, and then the money leaving Canada, it had to stay all in Canada. So anyway, NWTF folded in Canada, and so I do know a few of the gentlemen really well in Canadian Wild Turkey Federation and dabbled with them a little bit. Yeah.
Yes, interesting. A very interesting history with lots of passion for for hunters and for conservation, for wildlife management and all the rest of it. But, we understand that part of the background, but let's share a couple hunting stories, because you and I have shared turkey camps before. We did a trip, I'm not sure when it was, probably about 10 years ago. We went down to South Dakota. We hunted down there. We hit Wyoming on the way home and shot some birds there. And it was a pretty exciting week overall. And I'd like to say that you showed off amongst our crew.
Oh, you think so?
Well, I'd have to ask this. Do you have a Merriam's turkey mounted?
I do have a Merriam turkey mounted. Yes, I do. I did get my biggest bird ever when we were on that hunt in South Dakota. It was a 2-bird limit, and I did shoot one early on the hunt, and then I held out for a big bird or a pure white-tipped Merriam.
Right.
And I ended up on the last day getting both in one bird.
Interesting. Now, I always thought it was the bird we shot in Wyoming over that stuffer decoy where I was shooting with a crossbow and you had a shotgun and I was lined up to shoot, and we had that big bird coming in. All of a sudden a fox came and ran at our decoy, and he obviously figured out what was going on, jumped over it, and the birds got kind of skittish, and it was like, Jim, you better shoot it, because I'm not geared up.
Take them, Jim, take them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was actually the bird from South Dakota, and I took several other birds with us on that trip over to the gentleman in Wyoming, because he was also a taxidermist.
Yes, yeah.
So he did 2 full bird mounts from that trip and a couple of tail mounts for some of the other group in our group, and I ended up picking them up for the whole group several months later when they were done.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very exciting hunt. We shot some incredible birds. And the reason I bring that up is, if you go to South Dakota, there's so many different draws and places that you can hunt that I think you can shoot 16 or 20 turkeys in the spring. And they actually have crazy on public land there. It's a draw for people to get a tag, but if the tags aren't all given out, you can buy them over the counter, and as you fill one, you can go back and buy another and another and another and another. So, the reason I bring that up is I'm hoping that someday in Alberta we have enough turkeys that, people can apply and don't have to wait 13 to 15 or more years to actually get an opportunity to hunt these birds.
Yeah, well, currently it's a 17 or higher, and my whole ideological plan for turkey hunting in Alberta is that at some point in time you can go and buy a general tag, just like a general whitetail tag.
Yeah, that would
be my dream, and I hope to see it while I'm still alive.
Yeah, if we take a step backwards and take a look at turkeys in Alberta, the first stockings were done in 1962, and it was initial release of 21 birds that came from South Dakota, went to the Cypress Hills, and that established the first populations, and those birds had done well for years, but have fallen off in recent years.
Yeah, in recent years they've really fallen off. They're on the Alberta side, anyway. They're fallen to depredation by cougars in the area.
Right.
Now the good news on that Cypress Hills is on the eastern side in Saskatchewan. They've actually got quite a good population. I was actually just reading a news release this past week that the Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation has got their permit in place, and they're going to be trapping birds from that source area in the southwestern part of the province and leapfrogging birds out and away from there to establish new populations, with the idea of having a hunting season very quickly, in their words.
Oh, absolutely. Manitoba has a general season where people can buy tags. We have the draw, and Saskatchewan hasn't had much of anything. Well, they haven't had anything for turkey hunting yet, but it's obvious that the birds can survive the winters. There's adequate habitat. Hopefully they are successful in developing populations that are sustainable very quickly.
Yeah, early on in working with turkeys, we had a gentleman come on that was the provincial game bird specialist for Manitoba. And he basically said at the time he's got birds surviving and thriving in Flin Flon, Manitoba.
Wow.
And he took his schooling in the University of Alberta in Edmonton, and he says if they can survive in Flin Flon, they can survive anywhere in Alberta.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
Well, it's the truth of it. Let's hope so anyway, eh?
Yes. Alberta's an interesting place, though. We have very diverse habitats, and the birds are in a number of different ecotypes. But they've had lots of challenges too. I think predation is high. Sometimes winter's hard on them. Sometimes there's...
Yeah, it's the deep snow events that we get sometimes in Alberta that really, really hurt the birds and kick them back a notch and stuff like that. And, of course, localized depredation problems by, variety of sources, whether it be cougars or bobcats or golden eagles and stuff like that. So to have a diversified population across the landscape, across different ecosystems, separated by, kilometers, if you will, and being in those different areas, if there is a localized, hard winter event, well, we might lose them there, but we might not lose them in some of the other areas. If we have a high population of predators in one area where they're basically in a predator pit, where there's not enough being born into the population that they actually increase the population, that might be, for a couple of years or whatever in that area until it takes its course. But again, if we've got other populations in other areas, we can balance out overall, right?
This podcast is produced for Harvest Your Own, a program dedicated to those who want to reconnect with food and health through their experiences outdoors. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a resource for individuals to learn more about hunting and the outdoors. There's information to get you started and ensure that your compass stays pointed in the right direction to be successful. Where's your next meal coming from?
Right. To me, it almost sounds like you're reading from the turkey management plan. And what I'll say is, as a representative of Alberta Fish and Game Association and Alberta Wildlife Federation, you actually co-developed the provincial management plan, which advocates for population bolstering through relocation and works with Alberta Conservation Association to support sustainable turkey populations and hunting opportunities. And that would involve, I think you would like to involve local fish and game and some of the public to actually work in some of those stocking efforts if possible.
Oh, for sure. And actually that has taken place over the last couple of years where we've actually had fish and game clubs from across the province donate towards offsetting the cost of the ACA trap and transfer program, where currently they're trapping birds in BC and bringing them into Alberta. Hopefully with, as time progresses and avian bird flu runs its course and stuff, and we can get other birds from other jurisdictions, that'll help. But yeah, right now we've got different clubs across the province, Lethbridge Fish and Game, Sarcee Fish and Game, Calgary Fish and Game, Edmonton groups, all over the province, chipping in each year. Actually, over the years, we've actually had, I think, run it 3 years now. We've had some groups, donate $5,000 every year to the project, offsetting that cost of ACA going to BC to trap the birds and introduce them into Alberta to not only set up new populations in areas, but also to put new blood and progeny in the areas where they currently are.
Yeah, and there's what people don't understand. We discussed this with Doug Manzer a little bit. Is that some of our shortcomings are that we don't have enough gobblers. Jakes don't breed, so we need those longbeards in the population, and sometimes the hens are there, but there's nobody to breed them. Yep.
So the stocking efforts, depending on the local makeup, I mean, some will have a little bit more of the toms, some will have a little bit more of the jakes because it's building for the future, and some will have more hens because there's already gobblers in the area. So yeah, each stocking is a little bit different and unique for sure.
Yeah.
And of course, depending on what kind of birds they can trap from BC too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Let's take a look at this, because I'm sure that you wanted to see turkey management thrive and get off the ground in Alberta, and it must have just happened with the snap of a finger overnight, right?
Yeah, it took approximately 17 years to get to where we are 3 years ago. So it's 20 years up to date today. Between meeting with government, meeting with other hunters, writing resolutions, getting resolutions passed 3 years in a row, so it becomes policy, and then again just pushing and pushing and pushing. I know there was a couple of government biologists that every time I stood up, they knew automatically I was going to ask them about turkeys, and they cringed. But it was that pressure and just keeping it forefront, and finally, just things started to click, and I spent a summer with one of the directors from the East Slopes Turkey Trackers Club in Okotoks, and him and I, wrote a draft turkey management plan, and we presented it to the government. And at the time, they thought it was, excellent and time to proceed. So It's kind of morphed from there, and then the ACA became involved. And once the ACA became involved, it literally took off running. They started trapping the next year in BC. So,
Right.
that was great to get them involved. And this year, this coming January, February will be the 4th trapping season out of a proposed 10-year plan of getting birds from BC. But they've already been to Quebec and set up both the traps and the holding areas to trap a new subspecies of turkeys, and that's the eastern bird.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we get some easterns into, that northeast parkland country of Alberta and set up another population of turkeys. So again, that it's separate from other areas and we can weather the storm, so to speak, if different weather events or predator events happen.
Yeah, I think what they've done is looked for weather hardy birds, winter hardy birds, and those Quebec birds are felt to be ideal. It's the right subspecies that can thrive in central Alberta in our parkland habitats and basically do what they did in Manitoba, and that's expand across accessible and the right habitats and create sustaining populations wherever the habitat is. So, that would be the ultimate goal.
Yeah, and create those localized populations that, maybe 5-10 years down the line, we can go back into those areas and use those as seed areas to grab some birds and leapfrog them out, 50, 100 kilometers. And then what happens is, they start breeding and rearing their clutches there, and they backfill those spaces, and all of a sudden you've got turkeys across the landscape. Hopefully.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've seen a lot of states do that when they're introducing birds and how they get them to spread quickly. And it's much easier, as we discussed with Doug, to move birds within the province rather than getting the permits and the health checks and the vet checks and all the stuff that's required in terms of moving birds, even across a provincial boundary within Canada. There's a lot.
Every single bird that's trapped in BC has got a blood test taken, and the blood is sent off to a lab in Surrey, BC, and then the blood is of course analyzed, and then 4 days later the results come back, and hopefully they're all negative, that nothing was found, and those birds are then trucked across into Alberta and released into prearranged sites that we've worked with landowners and stuff like that. But if a diseased bird is found, of course that bird is not relocated, and in fact is euthanized so it doesn't spread any disease to the birds in BC or anywhere.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Things have changed a lot since 1962 when they did the initial release. They probably trapped birds and drove them up here in a car, came through customs and, released them. But
pretty much
things have changed a lot. It's funny because our American friends, when I get down to different hunting camps down there, I always tease them and say, oh yeah, back in 62, we made the best trade ever. We traded you guys turkeys for wolves, and we'd love to trade some more. And of course it always infuriates them a little bit.
I'm sure they'd jump at the chance to get some sheep or something. But
yes, and we've moved lots down there,
We have.
Yep.
Montana was a big recipient of that, and I know we've looked at Montana as a seed area for getting more Merriam's turkeys in the future. But again, right now we're dealing with across the North American landscape. I know you deal with it all the time with your hunting escapades with, migratory birds and stuff like that. But yeah, that avian bird flu has really what's the word I'm looking for? Restricted us as to where we can get birds currently.
Yes, yeah, it's put up some cumbersome roadblocks that have to be taken down before any birds can be moved. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's just got to work its course, right?
Yep. But the bottom line is we do want to protect the birds that are here. We don't want to introduce something that could jeopardize that either. There's been a lot of work and a lot of history. If we look back to 1962, that's 64 years ago. We've got a fair bit of history with turkeys in Alberta, and we're still pushing to make them flourish. And we'll go back to that management plan a little bit just to give people some history. If anyone out there listening has a desire to make some changes on our landscape and conservation to wildlife management, anything along those lines, if you're passionate enough and stick with it, like Jim. You actually drafted the first management plan. The draft was developed in 2014. And that was with Kirk Bunstein. Is that Bunston? Is that
Kirk
right?
Bunston, yep.
Yep. So,
good friend of mine from Okotoks, yep.
That's right. So you drafted the management plan, and it formed the basis for the final plan, which was, wasn't even released until 2019.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we worked at that over several jugs of coffee throughout the one summer, and we basically had a meeting. I think it was in February, March, up in Edmonton, and we had presented a prospectus that we had funded to get an independent consultant to write it, and we presented that, and they were all fine with that, and then we got a hold of them later and said, well, where are we? And well, not much had happened, so Kirk and I then sat down and said, okay, let's draft up a management plan and at least get some formative kind of plan in place that they can either, refuse outright or tweak and utilize going forward. So thankfully they did take it and kind of tweaked it and, had it go through their system and their biologists and stuff like that. And yeah, that's the document now that we're working off today.
Sweet.
This podcast was made possible by Alberta Conservation Association and the Harvest Your Own community. If you're interested in harvesting your own food, there's a comprehensive collection of information to gain insight and knowledge. Head to the field, harvest your own protein, prepare it, and taste the results. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a library of information from getting started and geared up to processing, butchering, and cooking wild game to make the connection between health and food.
Tell us a little bit about what's in it. Like, just a management plan isn't just we want turkeys.
It has everything from suggested ways of trapping, of mitigating if birds do become a problem in any way, shape, or form. There's interceptive feeding that we can do. If they get in any way, shape, or form, a burden on a single landowner and stuff like that. We've only had one documented case in Alberta at the time, and that was actually from tame birds that were released from a pen just outside of Calgary. So, but yeah, it deals with all of that stuff, and we took documents out of the archives from different National Wild Turkey Federation, and yeah, we put together a draft management plan, I should say.
Yeah, but it formed the basis of the major turkey management plan that was implemented by the government and is still used today in terms of managing our turkey populations.
Yep, correct. Yep,
yeah.
Yep.
So like I said, one person can have a lot of influence, or two, or whoever take this on. But I've known you for 36 years or more, and
every bit of that.
Yeah, and I think you've always had turkey on the brain since I met you.
Yeah, pretty much. I started applying in Alberta quite a while ago, back when there wasn't as much interest in it. I don't know if I'm one of the highest, but I've legally taken 3 birds in Alberta through the draw. My last draw was 2 years ago, and yeah, with looking at the priorities and stuff with that now, I probably won't get another draw tag in Alberta as long as I live, but I'm still applying because I know at some point in time there's going to be more birds on the landscape because of what we're doing right now, those trap and transfers and introducing those other birds. So hopefully, it might increase to 20 years priority in the short term, but after that, maybe we get a bunch of tags because there's now a bunch of birds. And like I say, my ultimate goal is eventually, hopefully we can just go in and buy a general turkey tag to go and harvest a turkey in Alberta.
That would be pretty sweet.
Like we can do in BC right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and BC's open to non-residents of Canada too. Like I know that you go there, you can buy a license across the counter and go bird hunting every year.
Yep, I go there every year faithfully, yep.
Right. So I'm not going to feel too sorry for you for not being at the top of the draw ladder in terms of having Alberta priority. But I also know that you're never going to sit idle in Alberta. You share your passion, and people that get drawn, I think you're on a phone list of hundreds of people that say, hey, Jim, I got drawn this year. Could you help me?
Yeah, usually the day the draws come out, I usually get a phone call well before noon that day saying, hey, I got drawn for turkey. So, yeah. And I have over the years, I still do to this day. I run a wild turkey 101 hunting course for anybody that wants to attend it, completely free. I show them how to use calls and suggested methods of hunting and stuff like that. So I want them to be successful too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And I jump at the chance to go with somebody.
Yeah. It's interesting because for years in Ontario, you weren't allowed to hunt turkeys for the first time unless you took their turkey education course. So for you to offer something like that in Alberta free of charge for anyone that draws, or even just anyone that is of interest, because if they took your course, they could go to BC, and there's several places you can go in the States, and maybe that population in Saskatchewan will take off to the point where someday we can go there. But there is lots of opportunity. We're hopeful that it's going to grow in the future for us right here in our backyards. But turkeys, they can teach you a lot. I mean, I've hunted them a lot over the years. I've shot all the different species, which is called the World Slam and the Grand Slams and all the rest of it. And no two turkey hunts are the same. You change habitats or birds or even different flocks, and they can act very differently.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Yeah, different habitats, different areas, all those factors kick in.
Yeah. So what's our future look like? Are you going to continue on with your advocacy and collaboration, trying to pull people together and work together? I know that you talked about the funds that came from these grassroots organizations across Alberta. I know that that probably stemmed from talks that you've done, or people knew you and have been somewhere in a hall or a convention or somewhere else where they heard you speaking passionately about turkeys and what they could do to get involved.
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly where it's coming from, for sure, with me bringing it up over the years. I had a meeting with ACA this past week, and they're getting ready to get going again for next year. So literally, as soon as I get caught up for Christmas here, I'm going to let my fingers do the walking, if I can use an old clothing frame there, and I'm going to phone my contacts in the different clubs and see if they're ready and willing to help out again this year. And yeah, every club that actually does donate, we actually make sure that they actually attend at least one release of birds in Alberta, so that they can invite a small handful of people. We don't want to inundate the landowners that are getting these birds on their land and stuff, but we show up with 2 or 3 people from a club. They get to take some pictures of their members releasing birds, and they feel a part of the whole program, right? And they see the actual fruits of their labor of donating their hard fought for funds that they fundraised at their club, and they can actually see the project take effect right there in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. And as we've talked about already, there's so much room for turkeys to expand into different habitats here with different subspecies that we have to say that there's lots of opportunity for individuals listening, organizations, businesses, or anyone else that wants to get involved. You could provide funding and other things to help out, and you could be the next one with a crate of wild turkeys, pulling the button on it to release the birds and having someone take your picture.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, we have one event every year that, we had, I think, 4 clubs in presence last year. In February, we came out there and everybody had a blast, and you could just see the smiles on their face. Like a couple of club members brought kids, and that's what I really like to see. And those kids got to open those boxes and see those turkeys fly off into their new habitat.
Oh, wow. Pretty special. Tell us, how would people get involved or help with finances or donations how do they do it, and what could they do to help?
Well, they could go at it a couple of ways. They could either reach out to ACA and say, I'm interested in providing funding for this. They could easily reach out to me through the Alberta Wildlife Federation, through the head office in Edmonton, or they could simply send me an email. Can you do email shout outs on the podcast?
Oh, absolutely. You can give that, and we can actually put it in the information for people to look at it when we're promoting the episode.
So it's just Jim Clarke, all one word with an E on the end of Clarke, CLARKE. F is ffg@gmail.com. So Jim Clarke, ffg@gmail.com.
Pretty simple.
Yep.
Yes, so hopefully there's some listeners out there that want to get involved, or they can help out with different things, because I would love to see turkeys expand across the parkland region of Alberta, like the eastern variety, the eastern subspecies. They're a little bit bigger. They can be a little bit more challenging to hunt.
They can be, for sure. Yeah, they're a little bit more educated and they can learn.
Yep.
But that being said, we don't need to hold it at that either. When we wrote that draft management plan, we had envisioned turkeys across the landscape, and you talk about the Badland countries along the river, the Red Deer River, or even down around Milk River down in the southeast corner of the province, those are perfect areas for Rio Grande turkeys, a subspecies out of Texas. So, if we can fill up all of the landscape with the appropriate birds that do the best in that location, why not?
Yeah, and as you know, I've hunted a lot through Nebraska and the Dakotas and Kansas. It's interesting to shoot the birds that are hybrids where those habitats, it's not so much the birds overlap, but the habitats come together, and that's where it brings the birds together. And you get some very unique hybrids. So, people say, I shot a grand slam, I got the 4 turkeys in North America. Well, there's a lot more to do because there's all these unique hybrids out there. You can always find a reason to go turkey hunting again next year.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I've hunted down in Idaho there, and they call them, in a lot of places where those different subspecies or species have met, they call them Idaho mountain birds. And you can get all different kinds of colors of birds in the same flock.
Very interesting. Now, because of your other passion in life, what feathers would you use off a turkey to tie what types of flies?
I primarily use the tail feathers for tying muddler minnows and different kinds of halfbacks and fullbacks and stuff like that. A lot of the wing feathers are used for actual creating wings on different types of dry flies. I haven't used too much of the back or breast feathers. I haven't experimented too much with the blacks, but I'm sure, some of those black breast feathers, if you tied them like a pommard, like a neck hackle or something like that, it could make a pretty interesting woolly bugger or something like that.
Yeah, and that's how you get Jim Clarke to talk about his passions in life: turkey and flies. Yep, I think the ultimate day would be to be sitting under a big old pine tree in the morning and calling and shooting a nice mature gobbler with a long beard, and then out that afternoon to use some flies tied out of turkey feathers to catch some trout. It would be a pretty special day.
The old proverbial cast and blast in a single day.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'd like to start off, I'm going to thank you for your passion, because if you hadn't kept it for all those years and not got frustrated and disappointed and walked away, we probably would still be looking for a turkey management plan in Alberta. So you stuck with it, I'm going to say decades, because it was. You stuck with it for decades. You helped drafted the management plan. You didn't get frustrated even at the point where they didn't implement it or work with it for years. You just kept politely knocking on their door, dialing their phone numbers, and eventually it all came together.
Well, thank you for that, Brad.
Yeah, so the world is run by those that show up is what I often say, and this is a great example of that. So, thanks for doing that. It's going to benefit all Albertans, whether you're a bird watcher or a hunter or somebody that just likes to see conservation unfold in different ways. Our turkey story in Alberta is quite unique, and you've been a big part of it.
Well, and it really comes from passion and desire, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's where it all starts, and that's what gives you the tenure. Otherwise, you wouldn't probably have the interest to stick with it through all those years. Yeah. But I will close by saying that, we've shared a turkey blind and sat on different logs and are back to back against different trees. I hope we can do that again sometime in the future. And the ultimate would be to do that somewhere in central Alberta in the future, where we both go and buy a general tag and enjoy the fruits of your efforts by harvesting some future Alberta gobblers.
Well, it would be truly a pleasure and an honor to share a tree again with you sometime hunting turkeys. And the dream would be, under some big cottonwood or poplar up in central Alberta, and have a nice good flock of gobblers, eastern gobblers come in.
Exactly. So thanks for joining us today. Thanks for sharing the messages, and I hope that we generate not only some interest, but some support for what we're doing with turkeys to continue bolstering populations and build new ones.
Well, thank you again, Brad.
We hope to inspire people to reconnect with nature and appreciate where your food comes from by harvesting your own. For more information on getting started or to learn specifics about the Field to Fork experience, visit harvestyourown.ca and follow on Facebook and Instagram. Check back often for new material, recipes, and videos that are posted regularly. Please subscribe to Harvest Your Own podcast and take the time to rate and review the show to help us build a dedicated core of passionate hunters as our regular audience. Until next time, embrace the outdoors and all it has to offer. Thanks for joining us.